Welcome back. Over the last few episodes, we've been breaking down the barriers that block us from the inside and out. Ardashir reminded us that fulfillment must be pursued with intention. Then, Cam helped us reconnect with our divine feminine power and unlearn the lies we've internalized about our worth. Andy followed by shattering the myth that age defines our ambition and showed us how to reclaim relevance on our own terms. Now we meet Vicky Tee, and in this conversation, we tackle one of the most dangerous expectations of all, the belief that we must sacrifice ourselves to succeed. Vicky is the founder of High Performance Executive and the creator of the Limitless You Mentorship Program, a transformative system for ambitious women who are tired of burning out just to keep up. She's here to show us what it really means to become the executive of your life, starting from within. Together, we'll unpack why burnout isn't a badge of honor and how to stop wearing it like one, how mindset, movement, and nourishment intersect to create lasting confidence, and why the answer isn't doing more, it's doing differently. This is about strength, sustainability, and finally, choosing you. So do yourself a favor. Download this episode now. It helps the show grow, helps us attract mission-aligned sponsors, and ensures you can listen anywhere, anytime. Let's dive in and start making the shift from high-achieving to limitless.
Okay, Vicky, I am so happy to have you here. I've been watching your progress now for a long time, and I'm really looking forward to the audience hearing your story, especially in relation to how as women, we often have to certain expectations put on us, and we need to follow those expectations. And society tells us women are often taught that success comes from pushing harder, doing more, putting everyone first. But what if those very expectations are the reasons we feel exhausted, unhealthy, unfulfilled, and disconnected from our own strength? What are some societal messages that you have absorbed in your life, and how did it affect your health?
Yeah, well, I think from what you said initially kind of hits the nail on the head a little bit of being like that constant expectation of doing more, giving more. So I think the sacrifice comes from yourself, right? Like logically, we know that the more we give, there is going to get to that point where there's only so much you can give without giving back. But I think where that probably came from a lot from me was, I think, being younger and actually being told often how unenough I was, coming from a situation where there were a number of people in my life that told me that I couldn't go to university, or the university that I wanted, or college, for example, depending on where people are listening, or I couldn't do this and I wasn't good enough for that, or maybe I should just like stick to this one because it'll be a little bit easier. And I think then it gets to a point in your life when actually you start to almost believe it, but then push against it. I think as high performers, then when we hear these things, there's a difference. Some people like settle for that. And then I think others push really against it and almost go so far the other way. So I think for me, my life became about almost proving others wrong. So just pushing myself to so many different extremes to achieve success at university, at any positions that I had as a woman, making sure that I felt like I was like, I'm going to be at that table. I'm going to be at that table at a really young age. And I'm going to prove to everyone out there that actually we can do this. But it does then come to a sacrifice of actually in that I didn't always factor myself in that moment. I was there to impress everybody else. It's then less went back in. And I think for me as a person as well, like I will, even now, it's a work in progress. I'm always consider myself a work in progress. Like I love giving to others. Like it makes my heart so warm. So whether it is from like a professional setting or personal to like friends, family, loved one. And so it's that part of remembering also like there is that you can sacrifice yourself by doing that, because if you're also become quite disconnected from yourself as well, because you're then just giving so much to others that actually you're not listening to what you need, what your body needs, what your mind needs. And I know for me, it got to a point where I just felt so lost. I felt so alone. I felt like I didn't have, it was almost like I had this incredible job. I was traveling the world. I was surrounded by incredible people. We were doing amazing things, best like family, friends, loved ones, everything. But I just felt so lost and alone. And because of that, I wouldn't necessarily treat myself very well. I didn't treat myself very well. And I just pushed myself further in the other directions until it got to a point where I could physically feel like burnout is like a small element of it. I think for me, it was almost like it was a very extreme to a point where I knew there was only going to be a certain period of time that I could keep doing what I was doing. And I wanted to start exploring myself. At the time, I think it started from a perspective of being better for others. But I think gradually it got to a point where it's actually being better for myself opened up so many doors I didn't even think was possible.
Tell me, how did you get to a decision point or event that caused you to say, okay, enough is enough. I've been working hard. I got a seat at the table, but wait a minute, things have got to change.
I think it's when I was just so exhausted. It didn't matter how much sleep I got, or it didn't matter. I was just so drained, and I lost my love for everything. Like anything that used to make me happy nothing was there. And I would search for these like dopamine hits in places that aren't healthy, and I wouldn't want anyone to. And it got to a point when then I thankfully was aware of someone that their words were really resonating with me, and I could hear, and it was actually a coach. And I think she put something out on social media, and it was almost like, are you ready? And I was just recovering. I'd broken my wrist, which on top of everything else, if you can't use your right hand, managing global teams, and you're doing all of these different things, like it kind of hit rock bottom a little bit. I was like, I can't even like make my own food or like anything right now. So I think it was a culmination of different things. And I was like, do you know what? At that point, I felt like I didn't really have anything left to lose by actually raising my hand, which was quite hard for me because I don't want to use the word ego, but like the idea of like raising my hand at that time and asking for help, being in the situation I was like, I should be able to do this by myself. Why do I need to? But then also I remembered that I think it was one of the words that they said, it was almost like, actually like, let me help you because you're already doing so much. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Like, it's not that I don't want to do this, but currently, like, I don't have the space mentally or physically or emotionally to like work out how to do this right now. So I think that was probably a turning point in actually hearing of other people's journeys and like realizing that I wasn't alone. I was starting to realize like, hang on, this isn't just me anymore. Like other people are facing this. So I was like, okay, let's have the conversation. Let's just see. So quickly, like I thought I was starting that journey from like a physical perspective I was 93 kilos. I'm not sure what that is in pounds, maybe like 200 pounds. I was quite big at the time, and I was so heavy and drained. And I was like, do you know what? Actually, maybe like I just want to lose some weight. I think that will help because if I'm not carrying so much weight around, and also like that will help with my confidence because then when I'm presenting to clients, when I am doing all of these things, it will help. So I thought it was like a weight loss journey. I honestly did. But it wasn't until actually with this person, we were factoring everything in. It's your nutrition. It's how you're eating, how you're fueling, how you're moving, how you're sleeping, all of the different things. But a big component was like the mindset element. But just starting to I was forced to take care of myself in that situation because I had that little person keeping me accountable, and it was just game changing for me. I lost weight really, really quickly, fell in love with the journey. I realized that actually, like, I almost felt like I found my purpose in it. Because it was almost that point of like, I was obsessed with it, like in a healthy way, but like I was obsessed with how good I felt. And how much better I was able to then bring to my job, to bring to my loved ones, to bring to all of these other people. So we've worked so much on my deep-rooted beliefs of not being enough, my deep-rooted beliefs of like the people-pleasing aspects, or being defined by what other people, the fear of judgment that I had, the fear of failure that I had, all of these deep-rooted beliefs, we were working on them. So I was then just so excited at the prospect of like, I could help other people understand and not feel like I felt. And that was a really powerful thing for me.
So what I hear you saying is that you were really trying to prove people wrong, and you did. You proved people wrong. You were in this great seat. You were at the table in the business and at a company and doing great things in this company, but yet you felt trapped because it just proving people wrong and being there was draining you. And so then you decided that really I am putting myself in a pigeonhole. In a way, I'm playing small. I could do so much and be so much more if I just stopped.
Yeah, I think this was it. It was almost like, I guess going back to like initially when we were talking about like societal things, like the whole concept is, go to college, get a great job, do all of these things. And I must admit, there was always an element of myself that a part of the not being enough came back to me not always wanting the normal things that people wanted. Like I knew that like I didn't necessarily in this always want to do the whole, okay, have kids, settle down. I wasn't sure if that was for me, or to buy a home. I wanted to explore the world. I wanted to try all of these different things, but I felt like I was following the norms and ticking the boxes, but it wasn't fulfilling. And I didn't know what that looked like yet. And it wasn't until I started to take that lens to myself instead of just consistently looking externally at others and meeting others' needs that I started to realize that, one, like, that's okay that you don't want to be like everybody else. And also, actually, by you putting yourself in situations of the things that are genuinely interesting for you, you will start to see so much more from life. And I did. And I was able to do that. Now it's almost like the doors that used to exist were quite limited. It was almost like, okay, let's go tick these boxes. I'm like, can we not just add more? Instead of these, like, you can do this or this or this or this, I became obsessed with the ands. But like, not in an unhealthy way of burning myself out, but like, what are the ands that we can start adding to this? Like, what are the other things that I can be doing and how I can be having more impact, but in a way that actually like fuels my soul so that I'm fueling myself whilst I'm fueling others, which is, I think, where a lot of this came from.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So one of the other folks that we interviewed, and he is a psychologist, and he talks about how percent of CEOs are either depressed, anxious. And so my question is, well, does that mean you have to be depressed to get to the top, or does getting to the top get you depressed? And his answer is, I'm not sure, but basically there's two different tracks: the achievement track, trying to achieve this and this and this. And the other is the fulfillment track. And so what I hear you saying is you had achieved a heck of a lot. And so now it was time to look at what should fulfill you.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I also think now that achievement track did not make me feel great. Like it didn't, like it was that part, because I think it was that element of like, if you're achieving, but you're not feeling fulfilled, like it's, for me personally, I'm like, you're always going to feel a little bit like not lost, but like, then it's not about you. It's about like my head, like someone could prove me wrong, but that's more of like an external thing. Like you're achieving for others, but actually if what you're doing whilst you're achieving doesn't fulfill you, it doesn't fulfill your soul and your purpose, then actually like it's never going to feel great. And I think that not enough, so many, and I don't want to say the word like settle at all by any stretch of the imagination, but so many people just want to just achieve and they're so happy with that. And that's fantastic. But I think for me, like being able to combine those, and I've always been the person, you can't put me in a box. Like, and now I love that. I pride myself on it now. Like I do not fit in a box. And I love that. I love pushing against the norms and pushing against the thing, and almost being like, if someone says something like that, like, to be honest, yes, I do also have ADHD tendencies, but like it's, with any of these things, instead of like defining by yourself either this or this, it's like, why can't it be both? Or like whatever that might be, why does it have to be this way or this way? And I think it comes back to maybe what I was saying there with like the ands. It's almost being like, okay, great, you've got this one. What can we add a layer to that with? And like, I think this is a big part of where like Limitless comes from, and the Limitless You part. It's almost being like getting to that point where, especially like, it's not even just as women, but as we are, where we don't have to feel like we constantly have to choose between things. Like it's, you can have all these different things, but I think a big part of where I stand on this, my stance is, the only way that you get to that point where you don't have to choose and you have more options and you feel more limitless is when you actually make sure that you're bringing that back to yourself first. If you're not taking care of you and your needs and actually listening to yourself and your body and who you are as a person, like you're never going to do that. You can keep pleasing everyone, you can keep doing the achievement tracks, you can keep doing all of these different things, but that's, I think, a lot of the part where like the burnout aspects does often come from, because you're poor and not pouring back in, but also the things you're pouring into aren't fulfilling you. That makes sense.
Okay, I get that. So, and I love it, because what you've done is you've taken that achievement and that fulfillment and put it on one track. So you're fulfilling both at the same time.
Why can't you?
Why can't you? So was there a specific moment when you realized that, I can, or did it like I can put both tracks on the same one, or did it eventually come to the point where these tracks just came together?
Again, I would take it back to, I guess, what we would call maybe like my fitness journey. When I think the more I was like taking care of myself and losing all of that weight, I was going into the gym, I was building this incredible strength within my body, which felt amazing. I'd gone from sleeping on average about 4 hours sleep a night to like up to like 7 or 8. I was taking care of myself. I'd started like learning, doing all of these different courses. It was almost like I was showing myself all of these things that I could do there. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, if I can do this, what else can I do? So I think it's almost like when you start showing yourself like you can be more in different ways. I think for me, that was a big part. My confidence started to really increase. Like going into like gyms and things like that. I never thought that, like, the idea of that used to terrify me. And then I'd go in there and I'd be surrounded by all these people, and get to the point when you start helping others there and like understanding with my body, with my nutrition, like instead of that whole, like all this noise that's out there around, like, you must eat like ridiculously low calories and whatever it is to like lose weight, or you must, and I spent hours doing all this cardio, whatever, in the gym. And it's almost like realizing that none of that noise makes sense as a high performer. It really, really doesn't. Like these things so outdated from people when, like, maybe it might to an element work for us when we're like in our 20s, maybe. But like realizing a lot of these things, this noise that was out there wasn't true. And actually I've been able to find ways that made sense where I could still be person at the table. I could still be the loved one to all of the people that I love the most, and I could still do me, and I could still do all of these other things. And all of a sudden you're like, you just keep doing the ands. I don't know if that's making sense. Start like, you're like, oh, I can do more than this. Like, it's not just this anymore, there's other stuff.
So can you tell me, because I know you work with executive women, helping them get their transformation going. Can you tell me a little bit about that work? Like maybe a few stories of the transformations that you've caused?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously every journey is so individual, but predominantly, yes, working with executive women, but also now also with women that are on the executive track, because I think that's an important element that I think sometimes gets missed. But it can be from anything. Like I've had women that have come to me with quite severe autoimmune diseases, and there is a correlation with how we treat ourselves with some of these autoimmune pieces. So for example, we could have one, okay, this might sound really simple, but it can be, sometimes I think it's important to understand how simple it can be. I had a lady and she had really bad, like she had like this skin condition, this autoimmune skin condition, and it knocked her confidence so much, really, really terribly. And she'd also for years struggled with her weight. She'd had multiple surgeries. She was doing injections. She was doing all of these different things and nothing was working. Like she was barely eating anything. She was like moving a little, hugely powerful job. She was traveling a lot for work as well. So traveling a huge amount. And it ultimately came down to I think the two pieces that massively helped was, first of all, getting her to eat more, and actually the types of things that she was eating was really important. Moving in a way that made sense, that was good for her. But I'd probably say the two biggest things that meant she dropped like 30 pounds relatively fast, and she's been able to keep it. She's come off the weight loss drugs, but also like with her skin, it was like water. I know this might sound so odd, but it was like we realized she wasn't drinking that much water. And with her travel, with her work, she was constantly saying yes. And she was very underneath. We got to the deep root of it, was that actually like she was really resentful of that, because she was saying yes, 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 but actually she was constantly saying no to herself. And it wasn't until we were able to like bring a lens to her and actually like get her drinking water more, increasing her fit, like just meeting some of her basic needs, actually talking to like her employer. Actually, she didn't need to travel as much as she did. Actually, she could get more done from home and then like traveling every now and again. So actually being able to have, almost giving her a voice back where she could speak and be like, let's do this. Her skin just completely cleared up. And that happened maybe within 2 weeks. Obviously the weight did not come off in 2 weeks. Like that took a bit of time. But like it's now when we talk, her journey, like she is now doing so many different things. Like she's now doing ANDs. She's considering with her career and all these other things that she could do. I mean, she could technically retire now if she wanted to. But like for her now, she's got this like new lease of life. And she just wants to be out there giving more, doing more, but also she's obsessed with how she says yes to herself now. And the more she says yes to herself, the more she can do. So that's maybe an example.
I think that's a fantastic story. And it's funny about the giving and resenting. That is something that research has shown that often women do that. They give and then resent. And so it's really important to definitely notice that and learn how to say no. I love that.
It is.
So, as far as when you shifted your focus to looking internally and really just discovering you and saying yes to you, and then figuring out what else you could say yes to outside of that, what would you say to women who are afraid to prioritize themselves because they think it will make them feel like they're selfish or that they're asking for too much?
Well, ultimately, it comes down to like, it's essential. And I'd ask them to maybe like take a step back and consider like, okay, so if we would put it into it, it's very easy for us to potentially give to others or consider others. So if we put this in an example where I would get them to consider if their, say, daughter, if their best friend, or perhaps it could be maybe like their sister, was doing some of the things that they were currently doing to themselves, what would they be advising them? Would they be telling them that they're selfish? Would they be telling them that they're too much? Would they? So it's almost like I think a lot of the times we need to consider this internal dialogue and the expectations we're setting on ourselves. And also, if you are someone, there's nothing wrong with being someone that wants to give to others. That's a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be successful and doing all of these things and to give a lot. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, it's incredible, but it's also considering to do that, are you meeting your basic needs? And what version of you do you want to show up for your kids, for your loved ones, for your job? Because if you're constantly pouring out and you're not pouring back in, there's a limit to how long you're going to be able to do that before you're forced to slow down. And actually, I'll give you an example. We had a client that we called her Superwoman. I don't know how she was doing the things she was doing every day, but she did. And I tasked her with spending 15 minutes, because it's all we could get her in, 15 minutes of alone time, because she was just give all the time. I just want to sit in a room 15 minutes on your own without your phone. That is it. She came out 2 days later. Her kid asked her if she could be doing more of that, because he really likes the version of her that hangs out with him when she'd had that time. I think sometimes we have to think about it in that way as well.
Wow.
It's quite powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Even when your child notices a difference, like, hey, I like you when you spend time with you.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So you've really showed us a lot of shifts that you made. It was in your training, your nutrition. Can you talk a little bit about your mindsets maybe, as well as how that helped you to reclaim your energy and become limitless without burning out?
Yeah, I think this is the part you have to really take a hard look at yourself and understand like a lot of where this stuff is coming from. Like I had to do a lot of work in terms of that, where that not feeling enough was coming from, where the constant need to overdo things, like the perfectionist mindset that I had, all or nothing. That was another one. That was a tough one. And like it was being able to look at all these different things and look at them in a positive way as well, of being like, do you know what, these things have actually got me to this point to an extent. So I'm gonna like almost send them love, but actually be like, these don't currently serve me anymore. Like, can I do work to an incredibly high standard without being to a point where everything has to be so perfect that I constantly feel like I'm failing all the time? Or I'm actually giving things, if I give this that much of my attention, I'm taking away from these pieces. So it's actually like, actually, what is the standard that I'm setting? Because I'm probably exceeding most people's expectations, but like I need to work out what my version of a high standard is. Like with the all or nothing, as high performers, like as myself personally, like I knew that there were going to be days when like I might have wanted to train 4 times per week, do this, this, and this, and all of these extra things, plus do this project and all of these things. Then something comes at me. I might have to get on a plane. I might have to, someone needs me for something. Okay, I'm not going to be able to give the all that I planned this week. How can I jig my week with the some things? Like things like, okay, I was supposed to train today. I can't do that today now. Like, can I move that meeting to tomorrow and shorten it? Like, and still do something. So it's when you start to show yourself, I think, that there are other ways. There are other ways around this. And like the constant reminder, like the affirmations every single day, I'm like, I am more than enough. Even now, I do it. I am more than enough. Like I will always want to be a work in progress and develop and grow as a human being. I think that's really important to want to do that. But like to tell myself that I am enough now. So there's like, it's understanding what these tendencies are, I think, and being okay with them and being willing to work on them and know that you're not going to be perfect. Like you might have, I had a huge, like emotional eating was a really big thing for me. I would go to food when I was sad, happy, stressed, all of the things. And that was probably one, unpicking that. And like over time, like when I first started doing it, I was terrible to myself. I'd be like, oh, you've screwed it up again. And it's like, no. It's actually been like, what can I learn from this situation with anything, whether it's eating or moving or whatever it is? When you come out of this situation, look back with love. Like we look back we can't change the past. There's no point kicking ourselves or whatever it is. We can look back and look at it fondly of being like, okay, if this situation was ever to come up again, like what learns could I take from this? What would I like to practice next time so I could do better? So that next time I might eat less of the food, or I might, I don't know, whatever it might be. Like, and over time you gradually get better, because it's like, we can't expect if we've been doing something for like 10, 20, sometimes 30 years to overnight just switch it. But it's being willing to be there for ourselves and show up really helps.
If a woman is really interested, feeling stuck and exhausted, lots of self-sacrifice, how can she get a hold of you if she wants to work with you? And what are some of the final things that you would say to people that are listening so that they can get started on this road to being unlimited?
So I would say in that circumstance, like with women, so first of all, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm pretty much everywhere. I've also got my newsletter, as well as I've just started a community today, actually, so they can come and join and just be around like-minded women there. But I think in the situation, like if you're feeling that way, like I hear this so often, and it's when people say, I know what to do and I'm just not doing it. If that's you, question it, because that tells me that the tools that you're currently using don't work for you, and that's okay. That means you need a new strategy that does fit in and around your lifestyle. And what you're currently trying to do isn't working. So enable like to reach, whether it's reaching out to someone like myself or just taking that pause and being like, whatever I'm doing needs to complement my life, not consume it. Like if I'm feeling exhausted, but I'm trying to do more, that's not going to work. So what do I need? So I think it's like, it's having a lot of those conversations with ourselves, and also knowing, and like I said before, like I say to myself every day, you are already enough. You are already enough, even if you do want more. And let's start looking at some of these strategies that can actually help you move away from feeling this way. And it doesn't have to be 100 different things. It's about working smart, not hard, especially as a high performing woman, because it has to be that way, and doing it in a way that works for you. And anything is possible. Like the only limits in life are the ones we put on ourselves. So don't limit yourself.
And so in the show notes, we'll have all of your contact information. Someone wants to work with you, it's all right there, so you can get started. Excellent. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your message of hope for those folks. Everybody take 10 minutes just to be with yourself.
Thank you for having me.
What a powerful conversation with Vicky Tee. She reminded us that success without self is a recipe for burnout. That high achievement, when driven by proving others wrong or meeting expectations that aren't ours, eventually depletes us. But when we shift from performance to purpose, when we prioritize our health, energy, and fulfillment, we don't lose ambition. We finally unleash it. Vicky showed us that you can reclaim your body and mind without sacrificing your career. Self-care isn't selfish, it's strategic. And the path to becoming limitless isn't about doing more. It's about doing what works for you. This brings us to the end of our exploration into the mindset shifts that help break external barriers. From fulfillment to essence, age to energy, we've looked at what it takes to break through what holds us back. Next, we step into two real-world examples. Two extraordinary women at the top of their fields who've pushed through massive external barriers to create lives and legacies of meaning. You'll hear their stories in the next 2 episodes. And trust me, they're unforgettable. So go ahead and download this episode and make sure to follow the show so you don't miss what's next. It helps support our mission, grow our community, and bring these important voices to more people like you. Until next time, keep saying yes to yourself. The ripple is just getting started.